but we have had 5 individuals come forward who are interested in making a few comments. And given the last or the limited time remaining, what we'd like to do is ask that you keep those comments to around 3 minutes. And if you start going over, you start seeing me give you this signal, that means that the clock ran out. But let's do that and try to make sure these folks have adequate time, and then we just have a couple of housekeeping items and we can get everyone home to their families. So, Linda, Martin, as they say, come on down. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Linda Martin. I'm CEO of Grow Idaho Falls. And I know we already established that it's all Rob's fault with the Chamber, but we used to be with them. They helped start us. Chairman and members of the Line Commission, I wanted to thank you for your service to help position Idaho as the premier location for nuclear energy research, development, deployment, and demonstration and deployment. And we urge you to focus on the opportunities that may present themselves as a result of the Blue Ribbon Commission recommendations. Idaho, and more specifically Eastern Idaho, is home to capabilities and infrastructure that can play a major role in providing a solution to national problems. In these economic times, it makes sense to leverage extensively the significant investments already made by businesses and taxpayers for resources, including established industries, educational institutions, the nation's lead nuclear laboratory, effective waste management programs, and a strong workforce. Specifically, the opportunities that we can capitalize upon include expanding the energy mission of the INL and the Department of Energy, but to also open the door for more businesses related to the energy sector. Utilizing the broad experience and skills that are available at the INL to nurture that nuclear industry in Idaho. Completing the fuel cycle initiatives that would enhance public-private collaboration, and this may possibly include interim storage facilities that could perhaps operate on private land but yet in close proximity to the INL and the Ks. Expanding educational opportunities and funding for our institutions such as University of Idaho, Idaho State University, Brigham Young University in Idaho, the Energy Systems Technology and Education Center, and the Eastern Idaho Technical College in Eastern Idaho. We also would like to see continuing work with the Ks facility to become a worldwide asset for energy research. And they've done many things as far as promoting international internships, and we've seen an increase in that in Eastern Idaho as well as providing state support and marketing through the Department of Commerce to grow the nuclear industry in Idaho. There's widespread support for the nuclear industry, INL, DOE, and the Line Commission, and we need this continued support as we may face reduced federal funding and perhaps even the risk of BRAC-type hearings and closures for national labs. We need to keep focused on our skilled workforce that is employed and keep them occupied with important future missions in the energy field. The economic impact of the energy industry and INL in Bonneville County alone is in excess of $1 billion. The overall economic impact of INL on the state of Idaho is $3.5 billion, according to a 2010 Boise State University study. This should illustrate the need to move forward to ensure that we look at all assets, public and private, to protect, defend, enhance, and sustain this industry in our state and not somewhere else. And this is signed by Damon Watkins, Ann Rita Sell, Dale Lundblade, Terry Tanayo, Kevin Copeland, Steve Free, and myself. And they are the officers of our organization.
Linda,
so thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Okay. Now, Rob, you had your name on the list, but you didn't indicate whether or not you wanted to say any remarks. So we have time if you'd like to. Seems like you're the one that's being held responsible for a lot of this today.
I feel really bad. I'm really bad. Actually, echoing a lot of the things that's, by the way, I'm sorry, Rob Childs with the Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. On behalf of the Coalition of Eastern Idaho Chambers of Commerce, which include Idaho Falls, Pocatello, Rexburg, Blackfoot, we commend the governor for creating this commission to look at how we can sustain the future of the Idaho National Laboratory, as well as how we use nuclear technology for filling our country's energy needs. Our organizations played a critical role in bringing the lab to Eastern Idaho many, many, many years ago. We are proud of the legacy the lab has presented in its 60-plus years towards research and development and finding a solution to powering our nation's energy needs. As you're aware, as one of Idaho's largest employers and one of the core economic drivers in eastern Idaho, we feel it's imperative that we present opportunities to keep our lab relevant. The main point that I want you to come away with today is that we're supportive of your mission, and we hope that you use us as a resource to help you gather information, to help you answer the questions that many have been brought up today. So, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Dr. Rickards, come forward and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Peter Rickards. I'm a podiatrist from Twin Falls, and I did send my public comments to you with clickable links to the references, and hopefully Jeff is going to send that to you all. I have had an open challenge to the INL scientists, and I extend it to you all and to John to debate anytime, anywhere. I've had that challenge since 1988, and they will not debate me. I believe if you read my information, it is because I quote their documents, the most important ones, and there are showstoppers to this. I wish Mr. Senator Davis hadn't left us. I would like to answer his question. He was focusing on the Snake River Alliance as to, our commission is leadership in nuclear energy. So are you recommending that we not have a future of nuclear energy? I didn't quite hear a clear answer to that. And my answer is clearly there is a problem with the future of nuclear energy. And I present the showstoppers to you. 3 minutes is not fair, but I will try and be as quick as I can. I ask you to study and report to us, on the public, on the Stuxnet virus, the worm, which has been used, actually came out of the INL, and has been used to shut down the Iranian nuclear energy program, their centrifuges. That is a good use of it. But if you read Homeland Security, we are in a daily battle with cyber terrorism on all of our facilities, and that would be a wind grid as well as a solar grid as well as a nuclear power plant. But only the nuclear power plant can wipe out and devastate and force evacuations. When they use the word safe, they are counting on impoundment of crops and evacuation of the state to lead to less cancers than could happen is if you stayed in the fallout line. This is unacceptable. Idaho is too great to evacuate. The Department of Energy says we can triple our present electric consumption with our own viable wind power. That is the Department of Energy I'm quoting. And y'all are doing economic studies on that. What's the economic study impact of a meltdown and an evacuation of our agriculture crops? It's devastating. You are gambling the farm every day on this. And I submit to you here in evidence, the state did not win the all means all lawsuit. You lost it. These folks have been intentionally misinforming you. I got the DEQ to correct the word most. When they revised the deal in 2008, they claimed, well, we didn't get all, but we got most the plutonium out. We're talking about over a ton of loose, buried plutonium particles. And the end result today is the obligation is to remove 10% of it. 10%. They're leaving 90%. And yet this brochure, still available on their website, claims they won the all means all lawsuit. The emperor has no clothes, and you have been asked to decide what his new wardrobe should look like. You're still naked. You're still not using the word all correctly. You're not using the word safe correctly. This is inexcusable. And when you threaten my children and all the innocent children who know about what their fathers do, it is unexcusable. So basically here, I quote from the Department of Energy's waste experts, Dr. Soderholm, and what she says, I want to get it exactly correct, from the Argonne lab for almost half a century, scientists have struggled with plutonium contamination spreading further in groundwater than expected, increasing the risk of sickness in humans and animals, further than it is expected. The CERCLA decision, which I'm asking you to have the Attorney General challenge in court, we can go into court today and force a full cleanup of all the buried plutonium we were promised, bring $13 billion worth of jobs plus more to INL, and it would keep the promise. It would contain the waste. And what Dr. Soderheim goes on to talk about is the fact that we have plutonium nanoclusters, which don't have a charge. This all defies aspects. The circle of decision says the plutonium will bind to the clay and not move. What the hidden documents from Dr. Kirstein of the DOE in 1997, the colloids, COLLOIDS, these are the microscopic pieces of plutonium, thousands of atoms in each particle that move in slow, sluggish aquifers on pieces of clay, eventually to be pumped up to the surface and blown around in Idaho for irrigation. Inhalation is the worst pathway. I did spend 7 years on the CDC Citizen Advisory Panel. I actually don't have much to say about the CDC either. When I caught them lying on their what the dose would be to a fetus from eating one of the ducks that landed on the radiation ponds, they literally lied about it and claimed the cesium would not cross the placenta. And I can still reference that study. And but after that, they basically cut funding to the panel and decided not to do the historical dose. But basically, what you have with the Stuxnet virus and the problems with nuclear power is disgruntled employees, which apparently happened at the SL1 reactor accident in Idaho in 1963. No matter how well you screen people, when you have jilted lovers like the astronaut who traveled across the country in her diaper to revenge her jilted love affair, this is what we're facing with all energy sources, but only nuclear power can basically wipe out Idaho. So I apologize for my rushed decision here. Also, Larry Craig was just plain old wrong to say that politics did not allow for the full exploration of Yucca Mountain. It's just not true. Yucca Mountain was proven scientifically flawed, and they basically couldn't prove that it wouldn't flood, couldn't prove it wouldn't earthquake. And George Bush, who had promised not to open Yucca Mountain, like every politician does, Republican and Democrat, it's not just a Democrat's fault. But basically, George Bush made a conscious decision to say we won't rely on the geology there, we will just rely on the barrels. And this, again, is what they're doing to Idaho. They are bringing in, leaving the legacy of waste, claiming it's clean, while you bring in more waste with nowhere to go. And the modern, Jeffrey, okay, I'll wrap it up, but you referenced how good the modern problems are compared to the old problems. Y'all just got fined for a 3 Mile Island casing that orphaned waste. The cement was supposed to last 50 years or more. It cracked. They didn't do anything about it. NRC finally fined them. Those are the foxes guarding the hen house, and when they finally get around to finding you, that's significant. You can't take care of your own waste. There's other problems right now that plague every reactor, the alloy 600 stress crack problem. That was tested and approved at ATR. I'd love to get into the safety flaws at ATR. You were taken on a tour, but if you look at the Keep Yellowstone Nuclear Free website, you will see tons of safety violations and an ongoing lawsuit, Freedom of Information, with more safety violations being hidden. The place has a metal roof that a crop duster could break through, and they want to cluster plutonium-238 production on it. That facility can bury more waste on site. We've opened new dumps. So basically, you have to say no. Are there any questions? Yeah, and I truly resent you bringing in the Idaho Conservation League for half an hour, cutting short public comment time. You waste time asking Rick Johnson all these questions when they have no thing. I volunteered to come and do this, and you exclude me. I just want to say next time I'll be happy to debate all of the scientists here for you. I would like more public comment time. I would not like to rush through it, but I would like written response to my public comment. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Okay, we still have a couple more minutes here. Next on the list was Eric Simpson. Maybe you can speak to the cleanup status.
I hope so. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. I'm Eric Simpson. I've been with the Idaho site for 22 years. almost half of my life. I've been in the cleanup program for 21 years, and I've been involved in, at least in the reviews of every major cleanup document that's been generated at this site. I've been involved in every public meeting that we've held on behalf of the cleanup program at the site since 1991. Now, I wanted to address some things that were stated this morning by the governors, the former governors. I felt like I needed to correct the record just a bit. The governors, Governor Andrus in particular, made reference to the 1995 settlement agreement being the first agreement between the federal government and the state of Idaho to dictate cleanup, and that's not accurate. There is actually a document that was implemented several years before that called the Federal Facility Agreement and Consent Order, that was a tri-party agreement between the state of Idaho, the DOE, and the Environmental Protection Agency, Region 10. And the Idaho National Laboratory site had been implementing the milestones and the provisions of that legally binding cleanup agreement since 1991. So it actually came 4 years before the Idaho Settlement Agreement. And now, Dr. Rudin, you asked the governor a question about was science used in coming up with the milestones in the 1995 settlement agreement. I can tell you that with respect to our federal facility agreement and consent order, that every decision is science-based. It is risk-based as well. And in particular, I wanted to also make reference to something that Liz said from the Snake River Alliance, saying that Idaho is a non-consent state. I view what she said as only part of the truth. And the reason I say that is because we use informed consent in the cleanup program. We are required per Superfund to go out to the public and accept public comments on every single cleanup and every single contaminated legacy site at the DOE Idaho site. So in particular, I think a lot of mention has been made today about the buried transuranic waste at the site that occurred back in the 50s and 60s. That in particular, that project began an intensive environmental study back in 1995, and that environmental study, remedial investigation feasibility study, took place for 11 years. You will not find a more studied, better understood landfill in the entire country than the subsurface disposal area, where you have been, where I took you on a tour, and you saw the actual targeted waste remediation occurring. Now, related to consent, we, the Department of Energy, the EPA, the state of Idaho, and the cleanup contractor, back in earlier 2000, released a proposed cleanup plan recommending targeted waste retrieval. And we talked about that on the tour where we were targeting certain constituents. We went out to the public and held several public meetings. We accepted hundreds and hundreds of public comments. Generally speaking, 71% of the people who responded favored the targeted waste remediation that the agencies were proposing. 29% of the respondents actually favored more cleanup or all, basically removing all waste from 97 acres of the subsurface disposal area. So again, 71% of the public favored the agencies, and it's not just the Department of Energy. The EPA, the state of Idaho as well, was involved in that decision. There was also made mention to, Governor Andrus made mention to the integrated waste treatment unit, the 900,000 gallons of sodium-bearing waste as it relates to the settlement agreement milestone to be treated by December 31st of this year. On June 16th, as we were heating up the facility, running a test on the facility, we had a pressure event. And the facility did what it was designed to do, and it shut down. Now, that was being done as a test. It wasn't treating actual waste. This week, we have an investigation team on the site investigating this incident and looking at the components of the facility that were affected. Now, when Governor Andrus talked about the settlement agreement milestone and will we meet the milestone, we, and I'm speaking on behalf of the contractor, CWI, CH2M Hill, URS, we are doing everything we can to meet that milestone. And I can tell you, from the pipe fitter to to the iron worker, to the engineer, to the communications guy, we take that milestone very seriously. We're going to do everything we can to meet that milestone, but we will not compromise the safety of the public, our workers, or the environment to meet that milestone. So with that, I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Simpson. Any questions? Appreciate those clarifications. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you want to take a few minutes? If I could, sir. Okay, we have you and one other, Lane. You also asked for a few minutes. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Brent Marchbanks. I'm just a citizen. But when I occasionally speak on nuclear issues in public, I always preface it with the fact that during cancer treatment in my 20s, I absorbed 6,000 rads of radiation. So I have a vested interest in avoiding any further exposure. I am not an economist. I heard Dr. Black's economic analysis. I've also read of economists' statements that nuclear energy, commercial nuclear energy is dead, and that effort such as this is basically an exercise in denial. I could not help but notice, though, that Dr. Black's baseline for his entire analysis and projection was based on the last year for which we have complete data, and that was 2010, pre-Fukushima. Gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen, the other thing that truly concerns me, I came to this meeting today with an open mind, because the only thing that I know, I've read your editorials, the only thing that I'd heard about the Line Commission is you're trying to break the 1995 agreement. And you said, no, it's far more than that. I came here listening for any other proposals. I have not heard a single thing from this committee about what you're going to do other than renegotiate. If, as Bert says, if Bart Davis says, your charge from the governor is to look at the future of INL in the energy picture of this country, the commercial available energy picture for this country, then I respectfully suggest that you disband.
Appreciate your comments. Would you like to field any questions? Any initial responses or questions?
Well, one other thing, if you do have any actual suggestions, put them on your website.
Okay, and
I'm happy to consider them.
And you understand we've been charged with giving recommendations on January 1st. That's the whole function of our gathering in these meetings, is to gather information so we can respond.
We'll see.
And we'll have a report ready.
Okay.
But we appreciate these kinds of, we really appreciate you coming forward. This is the kind of stuff we need to hear. Thank you. Lane, you get concluding remarks.
Chairman Sayer and distinguished members of the Commission. Earlier we learned that as you get older, you put your glasses on to read. If you get really older, you take them off to read. I guess that's me. But and I am Lane Allgood. I'm the executive director of an organization called the Partnership for Science and Technology, and we are based in Idaho Falls. Just vaguely associated with that nasty Idaho Falls Chamber of Commerce. But while the settlement agreement is an important component to successful cleanup of the Department of Energy's waste at the INL site, we believe it has a very limited applicability to the mission of this Commission. The executive order describes the purpose and mission of the Line Commission, and it addresses opportunity. The settlement agreement is referred to only one time in the entire executive order. Opportunity is listed at least 3 times. So our organization and my colleagues in Eastern Idaho recommend that the Commission focus the bulk of its efforts on opportunity. However, since a significant portion of today's meeting is dedicated to the settlement agreement, I'll at least make a couple of key points. First, I hope that all of you do understand, I know some people are confused, that the settlement agreement applies only to shipments of waste and materials coming into and leaving the INL boundaries It does not apply to any interests off the INL property. With that said, the settlement agreement is viewed by our community as a tool that helped ensure cleanup stayed on track. Milestones have been met, and most ahead of schedule. I appreciated Governor Anders's comment this morning about the integrated waste treatment unit and that project may miss a milestone. I was disappointed that the governor did not comment on the more than 800 milestones that had been met. In eastern Idaho, we have no concerns regarding the agreement, nor do we believe the Commission's charge of looking at opportunity in any way threatens that agreement. We understand over the course of 17 years, times have changed, and maybe agreements need to be changed. Changes have already been made to the agreement in the past, whether it was a clearer definition of all is all or a change in the date to support our United States Navy. We have had no concerns. The fact is, the spirit of the agreement is still intact, and progress is being made to satisfy the interests of INL's neighbors and Idaho's taxpayers. If change is necessary, then we trust the same parties that produce the document can come together in consensus in a similar fashion, making decisions based on science and reason. If a recommendation by this Commission refers to the settlement agreement as necessary, we think that it's naive to think that a 17-year-old agreement will never require changing. So we encourage the parties, again, of the agreement to review the agreement, at least annually, and determine if adjustments to the agreement are necessary. If changes are necessary, then we believe the appropriate parties should work towards consensus to make necessary changes. I'd like to make a couple of points as it relates to opportunity. In eastern Idaho, we have 5 higher education institutions. I won't list them, but you all are aware. We have 20-plus businesses that are strongly involved in the nuclear industry. Not all of them are related to the INL. Therefore, we see the role of the Line Commission as critical and urgent to all of Idaho. I need to tell you that economic impact from the nuclear industry is tremendous. We've had some comments on the economic impact as resulted from the study produced by Boise State University. However, we believe that basing those economic impacts just on the INL is wrong. Annual funding for the laboratory is subject to federal approval, and that just this year there was an initiative that was proposed that would cut 60% of INL's funding. The GAO has recently announced a base closure commission initiative to look at closing national laboratories. INL's risk of closure increases if public and state support is not evident. Federal budgets are declining and will continue to decline, and other laboratories are successful in pulling project work typically performed for the INL into their own states. While we are all very proud that the Department of Energy in 2002 designated the INL as its lead nuclear R&D laboratory, I need to tell you that not everyone got that memo. Just last week, I was at a DOE roundtable discussing small nuclear reactors. I'm on the board of an organization called Energy Communities Alliance. That organization is composed of elected officials and other individuals from communities that host DOE facilities. At this particular meeting, South Carolina, Nikki Haley made this comment that her state would be as aggressive about going after DOE funding as if it were trying to land the Olympics. I can tell you that our colleagues in other states with Department of Energy laboratories are licking their chops, looking at projects that they might take to their state. So we need this commission, I believe, to focus on the opportunities at hand, to continue to lead in nuclear and energy technologies. These opportunities will be built to be a great extent upon new commercial business development and collaboration with new commercial opportunities that exist within our laboratory infrastructure and educational institutions in the state. I'll make a couple of recommendations on what we believe this commission can support. First is the expansion of the Energy Systems Technology and Education Center at Idaho State University. There is a demand and there is a waiting list that exceeds the current capacity for this program, which is an Energy Technician Certification-based program at ISU. We hope that this commission would recommend that the state of Idaho invest in the expansion of this program to double its capacity by 2014. We hope that you will recommend that higher education institutions focus on a collaborative effort to pursue international opportunities and needs in nuclear workforce education and nuclear industry training. Our universities are well suited for that work. We need to expand our workforce development programs in Idaho to support the needs of the Blue Ribbon Commission. Workforce development is an explicit need identified by the Blue Ribbon Commission report. Our education institutions must explore those programs and degrees needed to offer support for this national need. These can be done in partnership with the INL and offered as workforce development programs. Last but not least, we need to support expanded research missions at the Idaho National Laboratory. If the current settlement agreement prohibits certain research from occurring, then the Line Commission should suggest that the parties that develop the agreement review and make changes that are necessary and work through the allowed process to make those necessary adjustments. We also hope that the state will support in marketing through the Department of Commerce to advertise our state's strengths and to work to grow the nuclear energy sector and the other energy industry within our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allgood. Appreciate your statement.